25-year-old Indonesian national Novita Brazil was working from her home computer in the 14,000 block of Bald Mountain Drive in San Antonio, Texas, when around 12:30 a.m. on October 4th, 2022, a group of teenagers, all but the age of 14 and 15 years old, would roll up and unload over 100 rounds into her private residence. In a case of mistaken identity, Novita Brazil would be shot and almost instantly die from those gunshot wounds. At the same time, a 41-year-old woman staying as an Airbnb guest in Novita Brazil's home was taken to a hospital with a severe gunshot wound to the leg. She was in town to attend a San Antonio Spurs game. It wasn't just the shooting itself, but the media coverage portraying the teens and their actions after the murders as reckless, violent, and without any sort of remorse. Isaac Gonzalez and Renee Gonzalez were the poster childs for today's youth, today's gang members, having absolutely no cares in the world and will stop at nothing to get what they want and do not hesitate to pull a trigger no matter what their age is.
Top story, 2 teenage murder suspects are back in custody tonight. Investigators say they bonded out of jail and ran from the law. Here you see 17-year-old Isaac Gonzalez in handcuffs and smiling. Deputies also arrested a 15-year-old. Now, the two are accused of killing a woman and injuring another during a drive-by shooting. Investigators say the victims were not their intended target. KENS 5 reporter Hannah Tita brings us the latest.
More than 100 rounds fired in a West Side neighborhood last October, according to investigators. 25-year-old Novita Brazil was killed. A 41-year-old Airbnb guest was injured. Sheriff Javier Salazar says 2 teenagers shot up the wrong house during a targeted attack on a rival gang.
We're able to catch up to them, but not before these suspects driving a stolen Kia, running from us, dumped out several handguns, a small assault-style rifle.
I got eyes on them. We're north now.
The then 14 and 15-year-old boys were certified as adults and put behind bars, the sheriff tells us. But recently, they made bond.
And then both of them cut off their ankle monitors.
Salazar says the teens were on the run for several weeks, possibly together at times. Deputies arrested one of the suspects a few days ago, and today, a now 17-year-old Isaac Gonzalez was caught and cuffed.
I'm gonna get another bond, too. I'm gonna get another bond. You know, it's going on free taste out.
The sheriff tells us they tracked Gonzalez down after he posted this picture on social media with the caption, "Tell everyone at the gang unit I said catch me."
These are just, in my opinion, bloodthirsty young heathens with no regard for human life. I'm happy that we were able to put him behind bars.
And I asked the sheriff how the suspects were able to evade law enforcement. The sheriff told me that the suspects, they had family members lie to deputies in order to hide them from law enforcement. And so those family members, we're told, will now be facing charges for harboring a fugitive. Now, as for the suspects, we're told both of the teens will be tried as adults. However, the sheriff's department said they will not be releasing the name of the 15-year-old due to his age. Reporting live tonight, Hannah Tita.
I'm gonna get another bond. You know, it's going on free taste out.
Our top story now at 5, a teenager who taunted law enforcement on social media, saying he couldn't be caught after a brazen drive-by attack, was handed a long prison term today. The vicious assault left one innocent woman dead and another wounded when Isaac Gonzalez shot up the wrong house. KENS 5 reporter Sue Kalberg was in the courtroom when Gonzalez admitted his guilt and learned his fate.
Sue, are you Isaac Gonzalez? Yes, sir.
Appearing before Judge Joel Perez, 17-year-old Isaac Gonzalez came to plead guilty to 2 charges.
You're charged with
murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
And it's punishable by 5 years to 99 years or life imprisonment. In both cases, are you pleading guilty because you are guilty and for no other reason? Guilty, yes, sir. Okay.
Gonzalez admitted his role in a West Bexar County attack back in October 2022. Prosecutors say Gonzalez was after someone who lived next door, but he mistakenly shot up the wrong house on Bald Mountain Drive. A 25-year-old guest staying at the short-term rental died. Her 41-year-old host was shot in the leg and survived.
Your punishment is to be assessed at 40 years imprisonment.
The judge assessed 40 years for the murder and 20 more on behalf of the shooting survivor.
In that case, your punishment is to be assessed at 20 years imprisonment.
The sentences will be served concurrently The judge gave Gonzalez credit for time he has already served, and the teen will be eligible to apply for parole in about 20 years. Then, the judge says, he'll have a federal lifetime ban on gun possession. Gonzalez will return for formal sentencing next Tuesday. They say that's assuming the town isn't shut down.
First at 5, 2 teenagers already in trouble with the law picked up again last night. Their murder charges for allegedly shooting a woman last year, now complicated by the measures that they apparently took to get away from officers. Eric Hernandez with the new crime chapter the 2 teens are being held responsible for, and why there may be even more charges to come.
17-year-old Isaac Gonzalez and 15-year-old Renee Gonzalez are both now sitting in the Bexar County Jail after being arrested Tuesday on charges of murder.
At some point after that, they made bond. They were given bonds, and then both of them cut off their ankle monitors. And warrants were put out for their arrest.
Both teens are charged in a drive-by shooting on Bald Mountain Drive in October of last year that killed 25-year-old Novita Brazil. We now know that Rene Gonzalez has been certified as an adult. He was arrested after leading authorities on a chase that ended near Loop 410 and Fredericksburg Road.
This is how much of a joke it is to these guys. During that pursuit, he was actually on Instagram shooting like a live video, knowing full well that he was running from the cops, knowing full well he was going to be arrested at any given time.
Salazar went on to say he was glad both were now in jail and would do everything they can to keep them there. According to online court records, Rene made a $250,000 bond back in May of this year, but was remanded after a bond violation. His bond was then increased to $275,000. He was still able to make bond and was put on a GPS monitor in full house arrest, but he later cut that monitor off. We are now hearing from several sources that while these teens were on the run, they may have committed other major crimes, but no other charges have been filed yet. Now, according to online court records, they will both be in court on January 12th. If they're found guilty on that murder charge, they face up to life in prison.
We begin with new reaction after a teenager pleads guilty to charges stemming from a deadly drive-by shooting.
Yeah, today 17-year-old Isaac Gonzalez was in court. In 2022, police say Gonzalez and another teen killed an innocent woman when they shot up at the wrong house. An Airbnb guest was also hurt as more than 100 bullets were fired into the home.
Now, Gonzalez will spend decades behind bars. KENS 5 reporter Hannah Tita is live. And Hannah, neighbors talk to you about the victim.
That's right. A next-door neighbor who says she knew the victim is disappointed with this plea deal. Isaac Gonzalez will be eligible for parole in about 20 years. And this next-door neighbor is skeptical. He's even remorseful.
I looked on my camera and I basically saw everything.
Like a war zone, with more than 100 shots fired into a home. That's how Erica Campos describes October 4th, 2022. Her next-door neighbor was killed when police say 2 teenagers shot up the wrong house on Bald Mountain Drive.
For that to happen to someone so innocent, it's just wrong.
Campos remembers 25-year-old Novita Brazil as a sweet woman. She tells us she sometimes speaks to the victim's brother when he checks up on the house.
He's so sad, and he feels bad too because he's the one who told her she could live here, and it happened like quickly after she moved in here.
An Airbnb guest was also injured in the drive-by shooting. Police arrested Isaac Gonzalez and another teenager, both bonded out of jail and were on the run. Authorities say Gonzalez taunted law enforcement on social media before he was rearrested.
I'm gonna get another bond too. I'm gonna get another bond.
Today, the 17-year-old smirked in court, but pleaded guilty as part of an agreement.
I'm sure he doesn't really understand what his actions did to people in their lives and stuff like that, but I'm sure like in 5 years after sitting there, it's not going to be funny anymore to him, I guarantee that.
Campos doesn't think the punishment fits the crime.
Not that maybe they should take his life, but he should at least do life for that.
As part of the plea agreement, Gonzalez faces 40 years of prison time for murder and 20 years for aggravated assault. His sentence will be served concurrently, but he could be in his mid-30s by the time he is eligible for parole. As for the other teenager, he hasn't been tried yet, but he is facing similar charges.
Shooting victim poured out more than a year's worth of trauma in a Bexar County courtroom today. It was part of the punishment phase in the Bald Mountain murder case. The vicious killing in October 2022 left one woman dead and another with what she calls lifelong disabilities. 17-year-old Isaac Gonzalez accepted a plea deal for pulling the trigger last week. And today, Gonzalez heard the anguished cries of his victims. KENS 5 reporter Sue Calber was in the courtroom.
As I rested and was about to fall asleep, the entire house lit up like fireworks.
Tarisha Howard walked through what she calls terror that will haunt her forever.
I was in pain and realized I had a gaping hole in my leg. The bullet had went straight through, and I had been shot.
Howard says she tried to crawl to safety and found the owner of the home with fatal wounds.
I yelled again, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Right when I was going to reach over and roll her over to see if she was breathing, the bullet started spraying again.
Novita Brazil died in the attack that left the house and the neighborhood with more than 100 bullets. Speaking through an interpreter from their home in Indonesia, Brazil's family said they will never recover.
When I was in labor, I was willing to die for her. Now it's different. She left me forever.
Gonzalez agreed to a plea deal last week. He was assessed concurrent 40 and 20-year sentences. The 17-year-old will be in his 30s before he's even eligible for parole.
You played with guns, pretending to be a thug, while never even looking any of your victims in the eyes.
While this chapter is over, the next has yet to be written. Renee Gonzalez, who's not related, is also scheduled to be tried for murder in this case as an adult. His next court appearance is scheduled for mid-March. At the Justice Center, Sue Calber, KENS 5.
Story here, he was 15 when he was charged with murder, and now at 16, we learned that Renee Gonzalez is now facing a second charge of murder. Now, Gonzalez had a hearing today. His attorneys wanted to get his bond reinstated, but prosecutors argued that he was a risk to the public. Erica Hernandez takes us inside the courtroom as the judge made his decision.
This is Renee Gonzalez.
At 16, Renee Gonzalez is already certified to stand trial as an adult for murder. He, along with 17-year-old Isaac Gonzalez, are accused of doing a drive-by shooting on the wrong house that killed an innocent 25-year-old woman in October 2022. But today, the state revealing he is also facing a potential second murder charge.
While seeking to be re-arrested due to that ankle tampering, that monitor tampering, there was a second murder that the defendant has been charged with in juvenile that occurred on November 3rd of 2023.
According to Hayden, Renee Gonzalez was able to bond out 3 times last year and cut his GPS ankle monitor twice. The last time he was on the run is when it's believed he was involved in another murder. Not much else is known about the November case because Gonzalez hasn't been certified as an adult for it, but that could potentially change. His defense attorney says having no bond amount is too harsh for a juvenile.
He is 16 years old at this time. We understand the gravity of the offense and the nature of the violations while he was on bond. We would just ask for some bond to be set.
In the end, Judge Joel Perez denied the request from the defense, and Gonzalez will remain remanded without bond. Gonzalez will now have to sit and wait in jail for his trial date, which has not been set yet. If he is found guilty, he faces up to life in prison. Advocate in the Reeves Justice Center, Erica Hernandez.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Greenlit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. We're going to be covering the murder of Novita Brazil and the shooting of Tarisha Howard. A lot of people forget about the second victim in this. Howard did not pass away. Novita Brazil did. But still, this was no joke. Excuse me. October 4th, 2022 in Bexar County in San Antonio, Texas. Novita Brazil, 12:30 a.m., sitting at her home computer. The 14,000 block of Bald Mountain Drive. Yeah, by all accounts, she was a beloved wife, beloved daughter, and these gang members, man, they absolutely did a number. And this case made national headlines, got a lot of attention on, just even like on YouTube, the views of the news channel. It just is racked up. And it's because of not only the crime itself, but the actions of the perpetrators afterwards. Pretty intense, pretty crazy. I'll just say it. It really gives a bad look to the youth and the upcoming generation. And it's that stereotypical gang member that people see when you see these kids. Then that's what they are. They're juveniles acting out on camera. Isaac Gonzalez, he's in handcuffs getting carried away after being picked up because these guys kept getting bond. And they're going out committing more crimes. And Renee Gonzalez, they're saying he went out and committed another murder. And they're committing burglaries, stuff in furtherance of the gang, and they do not care. And that's what you get at the juvenile level. You see a lot more craziness. You see a lot more. There is zero empathy. There is zero accountability. There is zero thought to what they are doing. They are just going. And it's terrifying. It's dangerous. If you are in their vicinity, you have a good chance, if you catch their attention in the wrong way, of ending up shot or stabbed. And that's really not an exaggeration. And I will say this, when I've watched documentaries and I've watched interviews with people that have done a lot of prison time, and I use California as kind of an example because the California Youth Authority, the CYA, that was a notorious youth detention system. And the guys, and these are hardened inmates, hardened gang members that talk about coming up. And a lot of them say, that the hardest time or the worst time they did was in these juvenile detention facilities because it's off the wall. You've got, kids that are maturing at a biological level, and their thoughts, their hormones, their actions, extremely immature, extremely violent. They've come up in very rough, not the best environments, surrounded by gangs, drugs, physical violence. They're not in school. And yeah, I've literally watched interviews where they say, no, the worst and hardest time they did and craziest time they did, violent time they did, was in the California Youth Authority or other states with these youth detention centers. No joke. That's really what they said. So anyway, this is in Bexar County. This is in San Antonio, Texas. Isaac Gonzalez, Renee Gonzalez, they go on this shooting spree. They steal a car. 12:30 a.m., they end up right outside of Novita, Brazil's home. And they fire over 100 rounds into this house. 100 rounds. So the shooting takes place. They say Novita, Brazil died instantly. That when the bullets came flying, she got shot, dropped dead right then and there. Teresa Howard, she's in town for a San Antonio Spurs game. She's in another room, hanging out, 41 years old. She gets shot in the leg, and that's what she says. You see her statement when she's talking to the court, and she said it just got lit up like a war zone, 4th of July, whatever you want to say it. So they take off, all right? 14 and 15 years old, Isaac Gonzalez, Rene Gonzalez, they take off, all right? They eventually get stopped. Deputies catch up with them, all right? And deputies were patrolling this area. This is a nice neighborhood. Okay, so they're patrolling the neighborhood. They hear gunshots. They spot the vehicle. They're fleeing the area at a high speed. They pursue it. All right, the deputies eventually catch up with the vehicle, which was allegedly stolen. They arrest a 14 and 15-year-old on charges of murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Additionally, the 14-year-old was charged with evading arrest on foot, while the 15-year-old was charged with unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Okay, which are like the least of their problems. All right, now, it was only about a week later, and this I actually read in one of the last articles I read, 3 more teenagers were charged in this. And I'm really glad I found this to kind of just about add more information, the better. The more information in these videos, the better. A 14, a 15, and a 17-year-old were arrested in connection with the incident. So the 14 and 15-year-old, those are Rene Gonzalez is the 14-year-old, Isaac Gonzalez is the 15-year-old that committed the actual shooting. Another 14, 15, and 17-year-old were also arrested basically in furtherance and assisting in this crime. The 14 and 15-year-old that helped, they get charged with deadly conduct with a firearm, while the 17-year-old, identified as Johnny Bermia, was charged with felony deadly conduct with the firearm. I put his picture up. Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar believes the suspects, quote, hit the wrong house in a drive-by shooting which resulted in Novita Brazil's death. Quote, the blatant disregard for human life displayed by these two groups turned a quiet suburban neighborhood into a war zone and led to two innocent young women being shot, with one losing her life. It's absolutely insane, man. Anita Brazil, she's married. You see the pictures. Indonesia's consulate general in Houston, they began efforts basically for her remains in a funeral home because these things are treated differently by different cultures, by different countries. And she'd been married for 3 years to Robert Brazil Jr., and she was described as kind, selfless, funny, loving, and adventurous. Now, to the suspects, okay? The story doesn't end there. The story doesn't just end with the shooting. So the shooting happens October 4th, 2022, okay? These guys get bond. So we're going to talk about Isaac Gonzalez first, okay? Isaac Gonzalez gets released on bond July 21st, 2022, all right? No, I'm sorry, July 21st, 2023, okay? So the murders happen October 4th, 2022. A few months go by. He gets bond July 21st, 23. A little over a month later, on August 29th, 2023, he does the race. If you guys know the reference, I'm talking about Tay-K. It was another juvenile rapper in Texas. Cut off his ankle monitor after he committed a murder. Actually committed multiple murders in the end, but committed a murder. Cut off his ankle monitor, made a famous music video. It was called The Race by Tay-K. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. But that's what that reference is. So, Isaac Gonzalez cuts off his ankle monitor August 29th, 2023, dips out. I'm going to just read through this article. So, out of San Antonio, a teenage murder suspect was rearrested by the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. He gets rearrested on November 3rd, 2023, nearly 2 months after the teen cut off his ankle monitor. In the weeks, Isaac Gonzalez, and he's 17 at this time, so he's 15, okay? 15, 16, there was differing, but, 15, 16 at the time of the murder, the time of the shooting. By this time, when he gets picked up, he's 17. In the weeks Isaac Gonzalez, 17, spent on the run, he brazenly taunted the sheriff's gang unit on social media, challenging the unit to take him into custody, along with a photo of himself with several firearms. At a press conference held after his apprehension Tuesday, Sheriff Javier Salazar called Gonzalez, quote, a dangerous criminal, and provided details about the history of the case. Salazar said Gonzalez and his co-defendant, Renee Gonzalez, were both initially charged as juveniles and certified to stand trial for murder as adults in recent months, and had both been given bonds. And that's in that video when you see Isaac Gonzalez, he's he's yelling, I'm going to get another body. Oh, no, that's what you think. He says, I'm going to get a bond. I'm going to get another bond, not a body. I'm going to get a bond. I'm going to get another bond. And he's basically just throwing it in their faces. It's just like, I don't care and whatever. And that's the difference with, not that adult offenders aren't crazy, wild gang members. They are, a lot of them. The ones I've been around, there are the leaders, there are smart, well-spoken, keep to themselves, people that are quiet, don't talk. But I've also been around a lot of gang members that were just flat-out drug addicts, very immature. A lot of them, believe it or not, have like extreme ADHD, ADD, have a hard time socializing. There's other issues at play there. And a lot of people don't talk about with gang members the drug habits, the drug problems. A lot of them are on heroin. A lot of them are on meth. And I feel like if you're around that lifestyle, or if you've been in that lifestyle, I'm right. It's 100% true. And a lot of them maybe don't like to talk about it or admit it. But it's true. It's 100% true. And I believe these kids were 100% definitely smoking marijuana, definitely drinking alcohol, and definitely doing other things as well. It's just the life, man. You sign up to be a gang member. You're active. You see the picture with Isaac Gonzalez. In the most wanted, he's holding up like 3 guns, and he's taunting the police, come get me if you can. He doesn't care. And he doesn't even know. His brain's not even fully developed to fully comprehend the scope of his crimes and the gravity of everything he's done and who he's affected. And it won't hit him until way, way later down the road. So Anyway, the I-team learned that in Isaac Gonzalez's case, now check this out. Why was he able to get the bond? Why was he able to get out? The I-team learned that in Isaac Gonzalez's case, a judge was forced to release him on a personal recognizance. So that's like an OR, like own recognizance bond, because the Bexar County District Attorney's Office failed to indict him within 90 days. It's like due process. You can't just hold somebody for no reason. You can pick them up on something, but you have to follow through with the filing of the charges and an actual, arraignment and all that stuff. And didn't happen. Quote, the law is very, very clear, Isaac's attorney Adam LaHood said, pointing to Article 17.151 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Article 17.151, release because of delay. Section 1, a defendant who is detained in jail pending trial of an accusation against him must be released either on personal bond or by reducing the amount of bail required if the state is not ready for trial of the criminal action for which he's being detained within 1, 90 days from the commencement of his detention if he is accused of a felony. The provision states that a criminal defendant held in jail 90 days or longer without being indicted or going to trial must be released on a personal recognizance bond or a bond which they can afford. So it's basically like the prosecution, the state's got to pay a price. Excuse me. So they absolutely paid the price. While the district attorney's office said it couldn't comment on Isaac's case specifically, they noted in the rare instances this does happen. Majority of the time, it's because the office is awaiting scientific results or other important information needed to secure an indictment. But this doesn't appear to be the situation in Isaac's case. LaHood detailed the confusion leading up to the district attorney's office apparent miscalculation. LaHood, who's Isaac's attorney, explained that when Isaac was certified to stand trial as an adult in the murder case, there was a delay in the delivery of documents from juvenile court, and the charge was erroneously entered as a possession of marijuana charge. What? Days later, Isaac was processed again to correct the charges to murder and aggravated assault. So can you imagine you're in there on murder, or you're thinking like you did all these horrible things and they run you as a possession of pot? Like, it's crazy. So when you become an adult and are certified, then you're subject to the laws that would apply to an adult, he said. And this is Isaac's attorney. So the clock started running from the day that they were certified and transferred in the juvenile court. At first glance, it would appear the 90-day clock started when the second magistrate process for the correct charges occurred, he said. Quote, it was just merely a matter of miscounting, LaHood said. However, the date that you need to count by was the original magistration date. Isaac was indicted on June 22nd, 91 days after his transfer to the adult system and outside the statutorily required period earlier this year. LaHood argued that Isaac was entitled to release on a OR, personal recognizance bond, or a bond Isaac could afford. While many judges default to releasing defendants on a personal recognizance bond, Judge Joel Perez first reduced Isaac's bond from $100,000, and when he was unable to afford it, lowered it to $50,000. So 10% of that is, what do we got, guys? For all my math guys out there, it's $5,000, guys, $5,000. When you're dealing with somebody that's 16, 17 years old who doesn't have any money, it's going to be pretty hard to come up with $5,000 to $10,000 in cash to post bond, LaHood said. Judge Perez eventually granted Isaac a personal recognizance bond with several conditions, including full house arrest, weekly drug testing, no contact with his co-defendant and his co-defendant's family, so no contact with, with Renee Gonzalez. Now, just so you guys know this, they have the same last name, but they are not related. They are not family in any way, shape, or form. So Isaac gets out July 21st, 23, cuts his monitor off August 29th, 23. And this is when the Bexar County gang unit steps in and says, he taunted members of our gang unit, posting a video of himself with several firearms, writing, quote, tell everyone at the gang unit I said, catch me. Sheriff's office did just that on Halloween, but not before Isaac and his co-defendant Rene committed more crimes, according to Sheriff Salazar, because Rene also got a bond. Rene also got out. We'll get to Rene here in a few minutes. His was a little even crazier, what this guy's out there doing. So, Sheriff Salazar goes on to say there's information at the very least Isaac and possibly his co-defendant in this case may be involved in other burglaries of vehicles and quite possibly other violent crimes. So Isaac Gonzalez, he ends up getting 40 years for murder, 20 years for attempted. They got served concurrently, so they're on top of each other. So basically he got 40 years. I mean, yes, it's 40 and 20, but it's concurrently, okay? If it's consecutive, then you got to do the 40 years for murder, done, 20 years for attempted murder, all right? So he's young. He will get a chance, and I actually do agree with this. No matter how crazy this kid seems, no matter how bad what he did seems, I believe people that are this young deserve a second chance 90% of the time. There are, outliers, There are situations where I'd say, okay, maybe not. But in this case, I do believe Isaac Gonzalez deserves a second chance. Even as bad as it is, he's a kid. He was 15, 16 when he did this. I think if he gets out when he's in his, mid-40s, let's just say something like that, early 40s, maybe he gets out when he's like 40, 45, okay, maybe he gets a second chance, okay? Get to finish out the second half of his life better than he did the first. Victim impact statements were pretty intense, but I'll be honest, at that age, a victim impact statement, you're just going to sit there with your head down, feeling awkward, and you're just going to be like, whatever, man. San Antonio, as he formally sentenced and admitted murder to a lengthy prison stay, Judge Joel Perez did not hold back when addressing defendant Isaac Gonzalez, a 17-year-old who confessed that he indiscriminately fired more than 100 rounds into the wrong house. Prosecutors said the neighborhood looked like a war zone. More than 100 rounds were fired during the assault. One detective who testified early on described the area as looking like Swiss cheese with bullet holes everywhere. Judge Perez, you are the poster child for what is wrong with young people. Such as yourself today, Perez told the young man, you think you can go shoot up a house, in this case the wrong house, and settle your problems with firearms and kill a purely innocent woman without regard for her life or limb, recklessly killing someone? Gonzalez was handed a 40-year term for murder and the maximum 20-year sentence for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The terms are to be served concurrently, meaning the teen will remain in prison for at least 20 years. The survivor of the attack and the family of a woman killed in the barrage spoke passionately and eloquently about the impact of the unprovoked attack. Teresa Howard was an overnight guest at the home that one detective described as looking like Swiss cheese after the attack. So yeah, they said the home, over 100 rounds. Over 100 rounds light that house up. Fighting back tears at times, Howard offered an eyewitness attack of the terror, describing what happened minute by minute. The details are hard to absorb. Howard said her host, Novita Brazil, had set up a desk in her room so she could do some late-night computer work. Teresa Howard's statement, quote, as I rested and was about to fall asleep, the entire house lit up like fireworks. Excuse me. Yeah, so even Teresa Howard went on to talk about when there was a momentary ceasefire. Howard said she feared the attack would continue. Quote, I felt like they were gunning just for me as the bullets were never ending. So you got to figure 100 shots. You're just in a house. Just please pause for a sec and put yourself in an Airbnb. You're sitting there in a nice neighborhood. Literally, you're just on your computer. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning and 100 rounds come through. I can't, there's nothing I can say. It's just, it's crazy. She did directly address Isaac Gonzalez. You took a life you never met and ruined so many others, she said. Your understanding and care for her life is non-existent. You played with guns, pretending to be a thug, while never even looking any of your victims in the eye. And then she even called out Isaac Gonzalez's parents. Howard told the parents, you don't even know what death looks like because you were a coward and shot from outside the house. You shot your gun blindly, then fled the scene, and that doesn't make you a man or hardcore. That was what she continued to say to Isaac Gonzalez. But yeah, that's pretty intense. So, and then Brazil's family went on to talk. Really sad, man. Brazil's father, Novita Brazil's father, she wanted to make her parents proud and happy. After graduating high school, she asked my permission to start making her dreams come true. She asked for my blessing to go to Paris, France. With a happy heart, I let her go. Her father went on. My daughter was in pain and died by a bullet without her parents by her side. And father talked about, until this moment, we are 15 months with our broken hearts. Yeah, it's just sad. So we're going to Rene Gonzalez. He was 14 at the time of this shooting. So 14, man. 14 and Isaac was 15 or 16. They loaded up in these cars with this other group of kids that they didn't shoot, but they were there. That was the other 14, 15, and Brema, Johnny Brema, the 17-year-old. It's just insane. Well, Rene Gonzalez, he gets a bond pending trial. Cuts off his GPS monitor, just like Isaac Gonzalez did. He goes on, commits burglaries with and without Gonzalez. Now, check this out. Rene Gonzalez was given bond 3 times in 2023. He cut off his ankle monitor twice, and this is nuts. He is actually accused of a November 2023 homicide. It's just insane, man. That's just insane, these guys. That's why I'm saying where even oregano, you need to go sit down for a long time. And I don't wish this stuff on anybody, but you need to go to like you're in your 40s, dude, because you are Your 20s aren't going to do it. Your 30s probably aren't going to do it. You need like 20 to 25 hard years to have a chance at the rest of your life. And I really don't, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I think that's the only way you could do it. Bexar County, Texas, a Bexar County judge ruled Friday that a 16-year-old boy who had been charged with connection with 2 murder cases will face both trials as an adult. Yeah, it's just absolutely insane. Yeah. But that's nuts. He got bond 3 times in 23, and he cut off an ankle monitor twice. So can you imagine being the bond company or these cops? It's like, and I'm not saying, dude, you got to have bond. Our cash jail, are like in Chicago, some of these other inner cities, people of color absolutely get extorted. People of color absolutely discriminated against, and it's wrong. It's really wrong. But my God, man. It's like we're giving this kid bond a 3rd time. He's cut off his ankle monitor twice. We already know what he's going to do. By the 3rd time, the cops are going to be like, okay, we're just going to wait. We're just going to wait. We're going to hang out by his house. We're going to hang out by where I know he goes. He's going to go rob somebody. He's going to go burglarize somebody. And if you do the timeline, it looks like that 2nd murder he committed happened the 3rd bond release. So that's on them, dude. I'm sorry. But after twice and 2 ankle monitors are cut, we're out. Anyway, Renee Gonzalez's thing didn't get wrapped up. Renee Gonzalez's thing didn't get dialed in. Rene Gonzalez, we don't know what's going to happen with him. To be honest with you, he's facing up to life in prison. I think like Isaac, with just the 1, he maybe could have got the 40-year term. But that 2nd murder, that's going to get him I feel like that's where he might not get a second chance. I feel like that's where he might come in. You know, maybe he gets the 1, maybe he gets a similar, because he was 14 at the time of the murder. So 14 at the time of the murder, it's going to be like, okay, we'll give him something similar. But then with the 2nd murder, he was older. He cut off the ankle monitor twice. I just feel like that's what might book him for life, and maybe not get out. Yeah, crazy. Gang members just. And it's hard to find some of this information with these guys. I couldn't find their actual gang because of the juvenile status. Yes, they got bumped up to adult court. But because of the juvenile status and stuff, so much is not known. But I did read multiple articles to get as much information as I could. Much love, much appreciation. I want to know, if you guys don't mind commenting down below, what do you guys think about the life with no parole for juvenile crimes? I think I asked this a few videos back, but please leave a comment. Anyway, much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys. Say a hope and a prayer that my YouTube, the monetization stuff, the clearing stuff, you know, where my videos get cleared by YouTube. Really hope that works out so I can keep bringing you guys videos. Have a great day, guys. And until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.